joining us right now from the stadium, and he's brought to you by the great people of First Trust Bank. He does a phenomenal job with them as well. You can check out the JAKIB Media YouTube channel tomorrow morning for Birds 365 with Johnny Mac and Jody Mac as well. First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. Johnny Mac, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're feeling pretty good after that little come from behind victory. Let's talk about the positive first. When push came to shove,
by the way, real quick before you start, Mark, you didn't talk about the defense. How do you not talk about the defense in this?
Oh, no. The defensive player, the specific defensive player. Okay. Yeah, there's one guy that we haven't even mentioned yet, and maybe you will. But to talk about the positives, let's start with that defense. It seemed like everybody was stepping up and making plays in this game for four quarters of football. It was a complete game by the defense. Did you notice anything specifically from Jonathan Gannon's scheme that had these guys in a better position to make plays?
No, they switched up a little things, but the biggest thing, and I've been talking about it all week, is the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Sam Darnold. That's the biggest thing. And it was going to be self-correcting. And it turned out exactly that way. But getting the turnovers, obviously, they were a little bit more aggressive typically than they usually are. But again, that relates to the quarterback. They weren't confident blitzing Patrick Mahomes at all. They did a little bit more against Sam Darnold. Darius Slay traveled a little bit more. So they did some different things. But it all comes down to the offenses and the fact that they thought they could do these things against the Carolina Panthers, and it turned out to be correct.
Hey, John, what was Sirianni's thoughts on the way his offense sputtered for almost 3 full quarters in this game?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't happy. He was obviously ecstatic, thrilled about the win, and they were able to come back and make some big plays when they needed to make some big plays. And I think in a lot of ways that kind of defines Jalen Hurts as a player. To use a baseball analogy, maybe he didn't have his best stuff today, but he was able to make plays in certain circumstances that got him over the top. And I think that part is what you take from his performance today. But yeah, I mean, Carolina was very, very aggressive, and they were taking away those bubble screens and those swing passes. I mean, they weren't working at all, and it was just ugly. In a lot of ways, it was watching football on Saturdays when you see that kind of offense struggle, and it can look really bad, but all of a sudden, crap turns into good stuff late when you get the big play from Quez Watkins, and then Jalen Hurts kind of pulls the football and gets a couple, not monster runs, but big runs that turn this football game. And then the defensive line was just tremendous today. 3 sacks doesn't do justice. They had constant pressure on Sam Darnold. He was uncomfortable at all times. And he just had a really, really poor performance. So you definitely hang this hat on the defense. And don't forget about TJ Edwards' block punt. That was a big part of this game as well. Sean Bradley had a big aspect of that as well. So it was a true team victory, but certainly the defense kept them in the game.
Yeah, I want to talk about the offense, though. I know Jalen Hurts didn't play amazing or well, especially at the start of the game through even the first 3 quarters. But how much of that can be attributed to the offensive line musical chairs that you've dubbed it, John, with Jordan Mailata switching sides and coming back from injury? Did that play a role in anything?
Well, I think it plays a role because anytime you have that many different, and you look at from Carolina's perspective as well, they had to move their right tackle to left tackle and insert a rookie at right tackle. So anytime you have those kinds of issues, and this is, we talked about it last year, the Eagles set an NFL record for most different offensive line combinations. Mm-hmm. And here we are today, and they've already used 4 in 5 games.
Yeah.
And we thought to ourselves, well, that possibly can't happen again year after year, but it has happened again. And that's sort of where we are as far as this offensive line goes. They tried. I think they went about it a different way. In the past, Jeff Stoutland has said he doesn't like moving parts. And if it's just about replacing one position, but you saw what they did. They're trying to get the best 5 players on the field. And Jordan Mailata has to go to right tackle. Andre Dillard stays in, and Jack Driscoll has to kick inside. It's not as good as Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks and Isaac Seumalo, but
Sure.
it's better than the depth of most teams. So that's a strength of the Eagles, that they can still be competent on the offensive line despite all those changes.
Do you think we'll see them go back, or at least Jordan Mailata? I know we still don't know about Lane Johnson for Thursday, but we'll see Jordan Mailata go back to his usual side for Thursday's game against the Bucs?
Well, I mean, that's all wholly dependent on when Lane Johnson returns. Yeah. I doubt it's going to be a short week. When Lane does return, if Lane returns, he'll be the right tackle and Jordan will be the left tackle. And that's when he'll go back. But until Lane Johnson is back in the mix, Jordan's going to be a right tackle because he's a better right tackle than Andre Dillard. So it comes down to what's your best combination? Is your best combination Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Jack Driscoll at right tackle, Nate Herbig at right guard? The Eagles said no. It's Andre Dillard at left. It's Jordan and kicking Jack Driscoll inside. I think they will keep that lineup until Lane Johnson returns, barring another injury.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of John McMullen, John, just post game, as far as what Nick Sirianni had to say and Jalen Hurts had to say, as far as the offense went for the vast majority of the game, not exactly their best showing. Closed it out well, of course. They got great field position, but overall, what was their message about how the team performed offensively speaking?
They gave a lot of credit to the Carolina defense and how they schemed it up, and they really are fast and athletic, and that's what you kind of kept saying. Okay, when is the adjustment coming? And I thought it came too late, to be honest, but ultimately it didn't, and they were able to get over the hump, do a lot to the defense, the turnovers, the block punt. I think if they didn't have those big plays, they probably don't come back in this game because they made the offensive adjustments a little bit too slow. But when they're coming up and they're forcing the issue with those bubble screens and those swing passes, that's where even if it doesn't work, that's where you have to show you're willing to throw the football down the field to sort of stop them from just coming up and selling out and doing that. I thought they made that adjustment too late, but the other units were able to pick them up, and it wasn't too late.
John, you think this could be a turning point for this team right now?
I can't say that with Tampa coming in on a short week. I do think it's one of those wins that can do a lot for the confidence of Jalen Hurts, and the fact that the only stat that matters in this league is wins and losses. It really is.
That's right.
So, Jalen Hurts' numbers in the first 4 games are pretty darn good, but they weren't winning. They won one game, obviously. Here, his numbers aren't great, but they found a way. He persevered. I think Nick threw out dog mentality 3 times at us. They persevered in a very difficult circumstance. It was 15-3. The offense was doing nothing. It looked like all hope was lost, and they kept chugging along. And I think that does mean a lot. If Tom Brady shows up and throws 5 touchdowns again, it's not going to mean much in the short term. But I do think it could mean something in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just keep winning. I mean, November 28th is when you start to get back into the NFC East. Other than that, you're going to have some tough games. You got one game coming up against the Lions on a longer week of rest because they're obviously going from Tampa. Then they play the Lions in Detroit. They play in Vegas before that. So you have a tough stretch still. But November 28th is just you're trying to get as many wins, steal as many wins as you can before you get to those divisional games. So that's at least what I'm looking at schedule-wise for this team. I've made a point earlier, John, about these wide receivers, and I just can't take seeing these penalties in the red zone, in the end zone, really, where you see now 2 straight weeks a touchdown being taken off the board because of a bad rub route, essentially, that's trying to be run, just trying to get in the guy's way as opposed to blocking him. How is this being coached up? Did they talk about that at all post game?
You know, Nick didn't get asked that. He'll probably get asked that at some point this week because too much happened after that, and obviously they ultimately won the game. I do think there was Zach Ertz ran a rub routes in the middle of the field. I think Kenny Gainwell converted. Wasn't a big play in the game, but he ran it perfectly. I mean, perfectly. Just put that up to the young receivers and show them how to do it. And it's a little bit troubling because obviously Nick Sirianni has a history of coaching wide receivers. He spent a lot of time with the wide receivers in training camp. And I got to tell you, for fans who were upset about that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside penalty last week, and it was Greg Ward this week, man, those are penalties. Those are penalties.
Yep.
And Jason Kelce on the field was upset, and Nick Sirianni was upset. During the week, they weren't because they saw it and they realized what happened. It's got to stop. And that's the kind of stuff where, in the case of Greg, he's been around he's got more experience than any other receiver on this team. So he's got to know how to do that better, or you got to put it in the back pocket and not run it. But it's such an easy play. Every team in this league runs it. It's a pain in the you-know-what for the defense because, I always joke, Mark, you called it a rub route because you're an offensive guy, evidently. Defenses call it pick routes because it's a pick.
Right.
And they get really upset about that. But every team has it. Every team uses it. Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers probably uses it to perfection, the best. They got to get better at it.
Has Nick Sirianni addressed at all kind of the inconsistencies and being out of rhythm where it seems one game our offense is hot, the next game our defense is hot and offense is cold, and no one ever seems to be playing in unison and all be having a good game at one time? Has he addressed that, or has anyone asked that in these post-game pressers?
Well, I think a lot of it is, I screamed from the highest mountain all week about the defense. It's, people did not give credit to the opposition. I think Kansas City came in to this week, the second-ranked offense. Dallas had the third-ranked offense in the NFL. Now, we all know Kansas City has the best offense. That's going to be number one. When you play those types of teams in the modern NFL, you're going to give up yards. You're going to give up points. That's how this league works today. And when you play the Carolina Panthers, and you know this, Devin, this is the first time I picked the Eagles to win all year.
It is.
On your show.
I was going to get to that. Finish your thought. And we'll get to that.
Others. Yeah, and it was because defensively, I knew they were going to show up. I knew they were not going to play better. Not because they were going to do a bunch of different things, not because they were going to change personnel, but because Patrick Mahomes wasn't out there and Dak Prescott wasn't out there. It was going to get better, and it got better.
I will say I am still concerned with the Eagles' run defense a bit. They don't seem to have any solution to that, and I honestly don't know what the solution is. But back to your point, John, you did say that this was the first game that you confidently picked the Eagles to beat the Panthers, and your final score prediction that you said I would not remember, I did remember, was 23-22 Eagles. So you weren't that far off, 21-18.
Yeah, I was pretty close.
Not too bad.
I thought I had a good beat on this game, rare as it may be, and it turned out I wasn't. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't too confident when it was 15-3, but it kind of unfurled the way I thought it would, and I thought Sam would make a lot of mistakes, and he made a lot of mistakes. I thought the defensive line would take advantage of Carolina's offensive line, which is probably the weakness of their team. And you saw Fletcher Cox. Now, he showed up today. They only had 3 sacks, but, man, they had so many pressures, which is more important. Brandon Staley talked about this week, the Chargers head coach. Sacks are things people get excited about, but to coaches, the more important thing is making the quarterback uncomfortable. And when you do that, all of a sudden he throws those terrible passes like he threw when Steven Nelson picks it off late. It's so many good things happen. So the defensive line, to me, controlled this game, and that's pretty much, how it went.
Hey, John, speaking of the defensive line, did you guys have the good fortune of hearing from Fletcher Cox after this game?
No, I'm sorry, Derek. Did we talk to Fletch?
Yeah, were you guys able to talk to Fletcher Cox after this game just to get his thoughts on all of the stuff that had been said about him this week? And he responded by saying, "I know what kind of player I am. I don't care what anybody says about me." And he went out and he had a sack. He had a big sack today. But I didn't know, with the NFL protocol being what it is right now in terms of having limitations on talking to certain players, I didn't know if he was one of the guys they would bring out to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, he was not, unfortunately. You're right. I would have liked to talk to him because he was one of those guys during this week. And he kind of intimated that he wasn't necessarily happy with some of his reps when he's playing the 4-eye technique, which is more of a 2-gap instead of a 1-gap.
Right.
And I said, Fletch has had a ton of success playing 3 technique for Jim Schwartz, where he was just told, go get the pass or go wreck the game.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's a lot of fun for a defensive lineman. And he made whatever, he's 6-time Pro Bowler, made 5. From his perspective as a veteran player, he's like, okay, this is what I do well. This is what I'm successful at. Why am I not doing that? And, I knew Jonathan Gannett's history. I knew he comes in he learned under Mike Zimmer, who uses a very disciplined pass rush. And he's another guy who's not big on sack numbers. He just wants to make sure you stay in your pass rushing lanes.
Right.
And that's not as much fun. Bill Belichick does it the same way. It's not as much fun for players, but if it works and you win football games, everything tends to fall into place. So if the Eagles start winning games, I think Fletcher will be fine.
Yeah. Winning cures all. No question about it.
Sure. John, were you close to the Eagles locker room? Was it just press conferences again, not in the Eagles locker room?
Yeah, I mean, that's COVID world. We're not allowed in the locker room anymore.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Were you near the locker room? Could you hear the players? Like what the overall reaction was to being able to still get this win despite how the other 3.5 quarters went?
Oh yeah, they were thrilled. Number one, more people are willing to talk, and they come out a lot quickly.
Yes. Oh yeah.
When they win games, and then when they lose games, you probably get 4 or 5 people, and that's it. And everybody's on the bus trying to get out of there. But I mean, they were very excited. I go back to halftime and really started with Jake Elliott's field goal. I don't want to go overboard. If you think about 2017 and Jake Elliott kicking the 61-yarder against the Giants, everybody thought that was sort of the launching point for the Super Bowl run. That's not going to happen here, but that kick was really, really big. And that got them started. And they got to say, as poorly as they played in the first half, they knew they were in the game. They knew they were playing a quarterback susceptible to making mistakes. The defense was playing well. And I think they never thought they weren't going to win this game. And that's rare when you play that poorly in the first half.
Right. Well, I was overall impressed with how they closed this game out, and very impressed with the way the defense played throughout the game. But not nearly as impressed as I am with you every single week, John McMullen. Thanks for joining us on the live post game show. How do you like that one, my friend? Johnny Mac, my man. Thank you so much for joining us.
In the press box for talking too loud too. There we have it.
All right. Well, tell everyone we said hello. Thanks for joining us, brother.
All right. Thank you.
See ya. John McMullen joining us here on live post game show. I didn't know that John picked the Eagles. Look at that. He's all optimistic all the time now. All of a sudden, that guy.
Sunshine and rainbows always. Yeah.
Look at that. Hey, just before we go to break, to kill the suspension, because I teased it like an hour ago. There's one player. There's one player we didn't mention yet.
Can I guess?
Ooh.
Don't tell me the punter. Do not tell me the punter.
No,
he-
he actually didn't have a good game.
Right.
Yeah, he had that one little boot. He was afraid of getting
Yeah.
it blocked. Yeah. Actually, I think he made a really good adjustment. If a punter can make an adjustment, I think he made a good adjustment on that because it would have been blocked and gone the other way if he didn't actually do what he did.
Right.
But that's how good he's been. He like makes one mistake and we're like, terrible game. Trade him.
Jake Elliott on fire in this particular game. 58-yard field goal. Good for him.
Yeah.
And then you also saw the punter made another Cypros also. Cypos actually made a great adjustment, if you will. He also had another one inside, I think, the 6-yard line. But Devin, do you want to take a guess? The one player we haven't mentioned yet?
I don't know. Now I'm scared because I kind of forget the parameters that you set.
Just on the defensive side of the ball, we haven't mentioned him yet. I'll mention it right here before we go to break. Josh Sweat.
Oh, I would have gotten it wrong. I was going to say Alex Singleton.
Alex Singleton led him in tackles, had a bonehead penalty that I'm sure he'll call a boneheaded penalty. Led the team in tackles again. And I will say this. I think they had a deep safety, so maybe it wasn't a touchdown saving tackle. But there was one play in particular made by Hubbard where they ran to the outside, and I thought, oh, here he goes. And Alex Singleton came across the field. I think it was a 3rd and short to save, I thought, a touchdown. I think they had a deep safety on the particular play. We didn't see the all 22 angle, but he made a phenomenal play on that one particular play. But the other one with the bad penalty, thanks, but no thanks. When we come back, we'll focus a little bit more on the offensive side of that ball, evaluate the quarterback himself in Jalen Hurts, and also talk about some other guys of this defense that really stepped up in this particular game. That's when we return here on the live postgame show, which, by the way, is brought to you by the great people of Ocean Casino. Make sure you check them out. Ocean Casino Resort. Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. Book your next weekend right there. More live postgame show when we return.